Welcome back to your latest industry recap, and unfortunately, an airline has entered into administration. Next, there is coverage on Air New Zealand, who are facing some aircraft delivery delays, and Croatia Airlines have taken delivery of a new aircraft type as they begin to enter into a new era. Let's begin, though, with the company that has entered into administration and is making headlines right around the world. And Rex, an Australian airline, has officially entered voluntary administration after quite a lengthy period of internal turmoil in its upper board and day-to-day operations. The largest portion of the business affected is its jet-powered ops, which utilise the Boeing 737s, a type of operation that launched during the pandemic. As a result of this, ops with the Saab 340 aircraft type are unaffected and will remain operational, this really stripping it back to their origins. Following the administration and appointment of administrators, the airline is unfortunately expected to cut up to 610 workers and look to reorganise itself and radically remove these 737s from the active fleet. Rex and Virgin have been working together with the fellow Australian carrier, revealing in the late hours of the night, local time in the last few days, that it plans to take on the lease contracts for 3 of the 737s that were previously flying at Rex. The aircraft, which are now destined for Virgin Australia, will aid their overall ability to accelerate growth and provide capacity across locations that Rex previously served, most notably and affecting your capital cities. On Monday of this week, Rex listed on the ASX halted share trading, and this, therefore, you can imagine, launched speculation about the future of the company, and many believe that warning signs were beginning to emerge as the week played out. Several analysts, they believe that the entry into voluntary administration has to be expected. These analysts argue that the overall collapse of the jet-powered services can be attributed to many things, but it will include poor financial management and really just poor management, period. We've seen quite a lot happen internally at Rex over the last few months even, and the shake-up hasn't necessarily eventuated in probably the manner that would have been expected. Analysts did state that while trading halted last Monday, this is something that's been brewing for some time, and it wouldn't have simply come overnight. A warning sign was the adjustments at board level I spoke of that have led to turmoil internally. Administrators are now seeking expressions of interest to help recapitalize the business. The administration obviously follows the collapse of Bonza, who previously experienced something similar, but despite Rex's jet-powered business collapse and the unfortunate circumstances, administrators have been clear and said that the voluntary administration is very different to what Bonza experienced. Rex launched 737 ops during a time in the pandemic when not only did we see Tiger Air collapse, but Virgin Australia entry into administration. This side of the industry that I call home was very complex back then, and undoubtedly it remains that way, but for different reasons in 2024. Rex saw an opportunity with the 737s to move on from just being a regional provider to a company that was going to shake up the industry in a positive manner, and while it's had fantastic reviews, this wasn't enough to maintain a sustainable business. On to Air New Zealand. In a world where much focus is placed on reducing carbon emissions, several airlines in our wonderful industry have outlined what can only be described as ambitious targets. These targets are ambitious for a reason. They may not be attainable if complexities occur, and unfortunately for airlines such as Air New Zealand, the last 5 years have negatively affected the progression towards cutting carbon emissions. Air New Zealand has therefore scrapped formally plans to reach its carbon emission cut goal outlined for 2030. The airline's major decision comes as it cites explicitly the difficulty in acquiring next-gen planes from manufacturers as a reason. Why? Well, because it relies on these new planes to help cut emissions. Delays in acquiring new aircraft are hardly a new problem for our aviation industry. companies right around the world, whether you're a full service or low cost, are battling obtaining new, large and small planes, and the longer the delays go on, the more significant impact that is being felt. Some airlines have been forced to retain older planes longer than expected, and all these decisions are going to impact an airline's operations and finances. As they move to new planes, they would be cutting emissions, but they can't do this on the time frame that they would like. Despite Air New Zealand formally confirming it had cut plans in place to slash emissions by the end of the decade, it is still committed to achieving the net zero emission target by the midway point of this century, 2050. This is part of a broader industry goal. Ultimately, at this point, the realization has to be made that each airline's pathway to net zero carbon emissions will look substantially different, as each navigate their own challenges in the coming years at different paces. Air New Zealand is progressively moving towards more next-gen planes. For example, it'll soon say goodbye to the Boeing 777. For long-haul flying, they intend on only using 787s. While this plan, alongside a heavier reliance on new-gen single-aisle types from Airbus, is a fantastic foundation, these targets can't be met if persistent delays are going to continue to occur. In a statement, Air New Zealand confirmed that it had most recently reviewed its overall ops and emission target goals, and during this, and obviously thanks to guidance from manufacturers, their frustration means they won't be able to commit to the 2030 goal. For Air New Zealand, they're the first. Many onlookers, and I'm sure some of you watching this video, believe that they won't be the last to not be able to meet these ambitious targets in the more short to medium term outlook. On to Croatia Airlines, and they've taken delivery of their first A220 following a ceremony just outside Montreal in Canada. The A220 will massively help reshape the future of this airline, with the Dash 300 selected. The Croatian flag carrier has committed to 13 A220-300s and 2 A220-100s. Furthermore, as they celebrate their 35th anniversary, what better time than now to bring a massively efficient plane into the route network? The A220 will not just bring a 50% reduction in overall noise footprint, but also, in comparison to previous gen types, lower emissions. And I just went over that lower emission target with Air New Zealand, but you can see how these new planes are going to help. Thanks to leading aircraft lessor of Air Lease Corporation, delivery of the first unit has been facilitated. This is the first of 6 units that will come from ALC, with Griffin Global Asset Management and Azora, the other 2 companies. The A220 sports the new livery for Croatia Airlines, and with this being in new colours and also aligning with the 35th anniversary, it represents what can only be described as a solid time to move forward, with a clear pathway. The A220s will be steadily delivered over the following years and be deployed across the airline's network. It also marks a turning point in terms of aircraft utilisation and overall age. If looking at other aircraft types in the fleet, well, they're pretty high in age, all above around 20 years, and therefore are requiring a replacement. That's going to conclude today's aviation news recap. If you have any thoughts, you know the best place to leave them is down below in the comments. Thank you very much for your support here on the channel. It is certainly appreciated. Take care, be safe, and I'll see you same place, same time tomorrow for your latest industry news.
And we'll fly.